Okay, let's go on to another wine. Let's go now, the wine known as Covenant. Covenant is made by a guy in California named Jeff Morgan. Jeff Morgan started his career on the wrong side of the tracks. Much the wrong side of the tracks. He started off as a wine critic. Only years after he was a wine critic did he decide that he wanted to make wine. He opened a winery in the Napa Valley. His wines have been consistently excellent. This one again is his newest release. He uses an interesting biblical label. His wines are all biblically named. One of them is Red Sea, for example. But he plays on the words. It's Red, capital C, which is a very nice game. All right, let me transfer wine so I have a nice clean glass. By the way, if ever you want to bluff about wine, the easiest thing to do is to bluff about color. After all, everybody sees color. Even if you're colorblind, you can bluff. Aha, it's very dark garnet. It's exactly what a wine like this should be. It's deep Cabernet Sauvignon. That's exactly what it should be. Nobody has any idea whether you're right, wrong, or indifferent, but they're impressed by it. It is, by the way, Cabernet Sauvignon tends at its best to have a very deep garnet towards royal purple color. This has it. You may have noticed that after I first taste, I stop talking. Why? I'm a critic because I love wine. I love wine because it reminds me every time I open a bottle of wine of what the French poet Beaumarchais said. When I open a bottle of wine, I'm not opening a mere bottle of wine. I'm opening 5,000 years of human civilization. He's right. Wine has been made for between 5,000 and 6,000 years on this planet. Now, it's true. The wines that were made 5,000, 6,000 years ago were probably absolutely horrible. Israel, for example, had a wine industry during the time of the Roman occupation. We were sending hundreds of thousands of amphoras full of wine to the Roman legions all over North Africa and Europe. But that wine, by today's standards, was a catastrophe. In order to drink it, it came in these beautiful clay amphoras. In order to make the wine drinkable, they added seawater, honey, juniper berries, black pepper, and maybe a few other spices and herbs in order to make it drinkable. Today, you don't have to add anything. I lucked out today. So far, we've tasted 3 wines, 3 excellent wines. This one, 92, 93 points. No problem at all. By the way, this is an informal tasting, obviously, where I wouldn't write a tasting note after a tasting like this. I'm giving estimates. The one thing I can say is the wine is delicious. And wines like this need food. The question people ask often, how do you match food and wine? It's really very simple. There used to be rules. White wine with fish, red wine with meat. There's a word for that, a very technical word. We call it nonsense. The wine that goes best with a food is a wine that matches the food. That is to say, the wine doesn't overpower the food and the food doesn't overpower the wine. As to how to make that combination, that has nothing to do with me. That has to do with what you like. Depending on where you're going with your food and wine, you make the matches. Corned beef, for example, which I'm eating now, I won't eat, by the way, the sauerkraut. Not until I'm finished tasting, because sauerkraut, the sourness kills the wine. But the corned beef, fantastic. As I say, anything that makes me smile can't be all bad. All right? Let's move on to California. Herzog. Herzog is a strange name. It's a strange company. Herzog is part of the royal wine family, controlled by the Herzog family. Herzog family has been making wine for about 400 years. For the first 350 years, the wines they made were pretty poor. Starting about 40, 50 years ago, Herzog started making world-class wines. More recently than that, they moved out to Oxnard, California, and they have a winery there, a state-of-the-art winery. I visited several times. State-of-the-art winery, one of the top winemakers in the country. All the wine is kosher. Be aware, please, I repeat it again, there is no contradiction whatsoever between fine wine and wine that is kosher. Those days are gone forever. Fine wine and kashrut walk hand in hand without any problem whatsoever. This is a Herzog single vineyard wine. This is going to be making its preview at the wine event on the 22nd. This is young, 2008. Good garnet color, clear, nice. Nice aromas. Interestingly, you get one from Spain and one from California, both of which hit me on the nose with chocolate. I would go a step further. This one is not so much chocolate as it is bittersweet cocoa. Behind that, red fruits, red currants, blackberries, nice, gentle, spicy note. It was oak aged. You feel the oak here, but you feel it in a gentle way. Wines that are over oaked hit you on the head. I tasted a wine not too long ago. I wanted to write a review, but occasionally you can't say the things you want to in your newspaper. I wanted to say that at that price, the wine was so over oaked, he should give you a free tweezers with the wine so you could take the oak splinters out of your tongue. That's not this wine. Here, the oak is gentle, it's subdued. Remember, I don't care what any critic writes, me, Robert Parker, the Wine Spectator, any of these people, the most important person in the chain of wine is the person who's buying and drinking the wine. Not me. I'm just giving my opinion. Hopefully, people can value that opinion. That's the trick. Am I being a snob? I am a snob. I'm such a snob that I'm willing to say the best wine in the world is the wine you like the best. Period. End of quotes. Has nothing to do with critics, has nothing to do with wineries, it has to do with you. I notice I'm smiling again. What could I say? Okay, let's make a few general comments. First of all, with regard to this wine, kosher food and wine event in New York, first of all, be aware, as a critic, I have no investment in these organizations or these wines whatsoever. My investment is in my readers or the people who are watching the video in this case. If I thought this event was going to be absolute I would say I think this event is going to be absolute But you know what? I've seen the entire wine list that's being offered there. There's over 120 wines being offered. I strongly advise those people who are into wine, go to an event like this. Any event like this. Why? First of all, it gives you a chance to taste a great many wines at a relatively reasonable price that you won't otherwise be able to taste. Nobody can go out and buy all 100 and somewhat odd bottles of the wine to taste them. But here you can. Before you go to an event like this, though, take a look at their internet site. Download the list of wines. Make a list of those wines that you want most to taste. Because if you don't do that, you're lost. You're not a professional. You're not going to be able to taste 110 or 120 wines. Make a list of those wines that you're most curious about. Second of all, and taste those. Second of all, get to the event as early as possible in the day. Any event, I don't care what kind of event we're talking about, if it's wine, get as early as possible during the day before the crowds come, before everybody's standing in line to taste the most expensive wine. Don't think prestige. Think quality. Think what interests you. That's what's important. You'll excuse me. I'm going to have a little more of this good corned beef. Fake. And now, because I'm finished tasting wine, I will even dip my corned beef in the mustard and take a bit of sauerkraut. And you know what? A pickle. First of all, I've enjoyed talking with you. This is Daniel Rogov, speaking from Tel Aviv, tasting wines from 3 different countries, and enjoying the hell out of myself. Cheers.